Hello there, friend. Mary Foley here. Do you find it hard or uncomfortable to say no? That's like asking, do you like ice cream? Seriously, I found in a quick online search that 96% of Americans eat ice cream. I bet other countries are similar. By the way, the most popular flavor is chocolate at 14%, followed by vanilla at 13%, and butter pecan at 11%. And that last one really surprised me. The last person I know who ate butter pecan ice cream is my grandmother, Spunky Ethel, and she's no longer with us and hasn't been for a while. So who's been eating it since then? Okay, I digress. Anyway, I just had to say that. I also found these online articles in a quick online search about saying no. One was titled 12 Reasons Why It's Hard to Say No. Another one said 11 Tips to Say No to Others. And yet another one was 10 reasons why you might find it hard to say no. In today's episode, we're going to flip the chip on saying no so that it rolls off your tongue like butter. Pecan. Okay, so, maybe that's why it's so popular still. My gal pal, Crystel Smith, figured this out for herself and is here to help us with our mindset as well as our skill set. So no, you don't want to turn off this podcast. And yes, you want to keep listening. And trust me, you're going to love Crystel and this conversation. By the way, I always ask my guests to take my quick quiz to determine their nail color persona and what their fave nail color reveals about them. It's a fun way to get to know them before we dive into our conversation. You can take the What's My Nail Color Persona quiz too. Just go to liveLikeYourNailColor.com/quiz. Or you can use my handy shortcut, mynailcolorpersona.com. Answer 3 quick questions, and in your results, discover your specific nail color persona, your built-in strengths, and how to tap into those strengths when shit happens. Again, go to liveLikeYourNailColor.com/quiz. Now let's get talking with Crystel.
Tired of so much chip happening? Discouraged by so much downer news? Weary from chronic crisis? Don't let the chips keep you down. Welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast, where the tips of your fingers and toes are ready to inspire you to not give up and to keep creating the business, career, and life you want. In each episode, we flip the chip and let our fun nail color with that crazy fun name cheer us on to remember our strengths, embrace the power of choice, see life as an adventure, and know resilience is only a touch-up or change-up away. Get ready for a good time and a good laugh with your host, Mary Foley.
Welcome back, Live Like Your Nail Color gals. So good to be with you again. Do you find it easy to say yes to an invitation to an event or a request to help out or someone who says they desperately need to talk to you? Maybe because you never want to let anyone down, and yet you feel overwhelmed, overbooked, and downright pooped. Well, in last week's episode, we talked with Nikita Rowell Stevens, author of The Decision, about making a decision, especially a big decision at a crossroads in your career, your business, or personal life. Today, we'll explore the yes or the no of everyday decisions that also make a huge impact on our lives, though we often don't notice it. And I have the perfect gal to do just that. Her name is Crystel Smith, author of The Power of No for Women, When to Say It, How to Say It, and What to Do When You Hear It. Crystel is a powerhouse personality, personally and professionally. You're about to find that out. I mean, when you walk into a room and someone is just immediately lighting it up and dynamic? Yeah, well, that's Crystel. The thing is, though, I really love about her is that she considers herself very blessed to have an over 20-year career to train, lead, inspire, and propel over 5,000 people as a high-performance business coach, national speaker, best-selling author, and kick-ass friend. Okay, so that part isn't really in her official bio, but it's part of my personal one, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Crystel, welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Oh my gosh, Mary, thank you so much. It's funny that you say kick-ass friend because I have a client that my contact name in their email is kick-ass coach. So I'll accept it. Thank you so much. And Mary, I'm really honored to be here with you today. When you invited me to be on your podcast, one, I was super excited. Two, to have another kick-ass coach invite me and share on their podcast. It's really an honor. So thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. And I can't wait to get into the power of no. But before we do that, you know that I ask every guest to take my quiz called What is Your Nail Color Persona? So you took it. And what I want to know is, what was the persona it came up with, and did it nail you?
Mary, I am so a practical princess. Okay. Did it nail me? Yes. So let me tell you, one of the things it said about the practical princess was that I took some notes. So French manicure is my go-to, right? And if this were on video, everybody can see right now, I have the French manicure. It is my go-to. You're right. It goes with absolutely everything. I can dress it up, dress it down. I'm a no fuss girl, right? So I don't want to have to match things, right? So the French manicure, the practical princess, it says it looks elegant and goes with any outfit. And interestingly, Mary, you nailed it. Others often look up to you and seek your advice. I'm a business coach, right? Nailed it.
So then the quiz also asks you about your fave go-to color. And sometimes that varies, on a French tip. Sometimes it doesn't. But what was the color that you normally like to use on your tips? And did the description of that color nail you too?
Yes, it did. So mine was gray, and not like the light gray. I like the dark grays, right? But one of the things that you said is that you often have the effect of pulling people together. Mary, when I tell you, like, I know nailed it, it's kind of a pun on, the nail polish, but so true. I had have a friend who needed to clean out a home from a parent who had passed. Her surviving parent was living in the house, and they had become, the house was full. Let's say that it was full. Paths to walk through. And so someone else, their niece, had moved in the home to help the cleanup. Well, my friend wanted to bring me in. I can also be a force of nature, practically. And so I went in to help them. So you can imagine there's a niece who's living there and trying to clean up. And then there's the person who wants to make it a livable home for their parent. And then they bring me in, right? And so what they said was, I'm going to quote them, "I'm so grateful. Like, you have such a natural, calming way to pull people together."
Mm.
So I love that when I took this quiz, one practical princess. Yep. Want the advice? Let's go. You need somebody to pull people together? Nailed it, Mary. Nailed it. So fun too.
You could have spent hundreds of dollars on high assessments. Instead, you could just take the "What is your nail color?"
Right.
Boom, there you go. I'm just saying. But the thing I love about this quiz, it's just obviously it's fun, and it's not intended to be a tell-all about everything about you, but it's the whole thing about raising our awareness all the time and different ways about ourselves, right? Because it's really difficult to be aware of our surroundings if we don't have some awareness of ourselves. But on top of that, knowing that, hey, this is why I like to wear pink, or this is why I like to wear the French tip. And when you look at the tips of your fingers or toes, it can validate who you are. You can remember your strengths. And so that's why I love doing it. And so thank you for.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, I'm going to use this as a constant reminder.
There you go. Okay, practical princess, PP.
All right, practical.
Practical about some other things too, because your book is called The Power of No. It's all about saying no. I mean, so here you are, and you're an accomplished woman with you got kids, you got grandkids, you got a successful career in banking before you became a high performance coach. You're successful there, and yet saying no, which personally, that's a little comforting, frankly, in a way.
Right.
I want to start with this really basic question. Why is the power of no so important to you?
Well, it's truly a passion project for me, really based on my experiences and some profound and really pivotal moments in my life that really changed my life. So I was a single mother. I was working 80 hours a week. I was volunteering for, everything that could change the world. I was active in my church, on the PTO board. I was raising 2 children. I was making the beds, making the dinners, making the plans. I was going to every sporting event and every extracurricular activity. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, you're so great. You're so successful, And Mary, I was mentally and physically exhausted.
I'm exhausted hearing about the list right now. Exactly.
Right. But that's who we are, right?
Yeah. Like I said, we get pooped from all of that. And then we go, oh no, what happened? So go on.
Right. Yeah. Women, we're amazing creatures. We're caregivers for our elderly. We're the breadwinners for our family, team players for our employers. We're volunteers in our community. We're prayer warriors at our church, leaders of the PTO. We're reliable members of our groups, nurturers of the children, supporters of our significant other. We're the cheerleaders for our friends. We're the drivers of extracurricular activities. We're the chefs in our kitchen. We're the organizers of chaos. We're really the schedulers. All that must be done, right? We give our time, our finances, our love, our material possessions. We'll empty our cup that hasn't been filled for months on end. And then we wonder why we feel overwhelmed and exhausted. I always say we'll give the brand new or even wrinkled shirt right off our back if it doesn't leave us naked in public. But even then, Mary, we'll consider it before we decide that naked in public might not be the best idea.
Like I'm not trying as trim as I used to be. That's for one thing. And so
Right.
off. Okay. I don't need that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So here you are. So many women listening right now, myself can relate to at different points in our lives, more than others even. So, didn't say no. You were saying yes, 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 yes. Is that why you got to a point of poopedness where you're like, I have got to say no, and therefore that is why the power of no is important to you?
Well, I shared with you that there are some pivotal moments in my life, and I'll share a couple of those with you. But one is, in becoming a coach, we study the studies, right? And there's a study that says the average American life expectancy is 77 years. That's 77 years. Let me put that in perspective for you. Equates to about 4,004 weeks. So when you think about the last time you went on vacation for a week, how quickly did that week
2
go?
weeks.
Too fast. I just went away for 4 days. Felt like 4 minutes. And, we spend all this time planning and preparing for that 1 week of vacation, then it goes by. But when you think about 4,004 weeks, now I get it. Some people will live 5,000 weeks and some people may live, 2,000 weeks. Some may live to be 97 like my grandmother, and some may live to be 47 like my mother, right? But our life is so precious and so it could be so short. We don't know. I feel like our lives are too short and too precious to be spending our time doing anything other than what we want with who we want to spend with, right? So I worked in corporate America like you did for many years. And one of my friends and coworkers, Patty Dennison, she was one of those energy women. Like when you walked in the room, you just felt her energy and her love. And she was always so positive and uplifting. And so I started every day with Patty's desk, right? Walking to the office, she was the first one there. The coffee was on. She would have snacks. She made us cakes. I'd have a chat with her, get pumped for the day, and then, be on my way. And one morning I was talking to Patty, and I don't remember how, but we got on the conversation of our mothers. And I lost my mother when I was 21. My mom was 47. And Patty shared with me that she had lost her mother around the same age. And I remember asking her, or sharing with her how mad I was at God. Like I was just mad, Mary. I didn't want to talk to him. Like, how could he do this to me? My mother had 3 daughters. And so I was sharing that with Patty and probably wanting a little validation, right? Like, weren't you mad at God too? He did that to you. And she said, she didn't hesitate, Mary. She said, absolutely not. She said, God is the author, the creator, the founder, the writer of our stories. He knows what story we're here to tell and how long or short it is.
Boom. Oh my gosh. You want to go,
right?
And you I'll go now.
Right. So I thought about that all night. Like it kept me up, or I chose to let it keep me up all night. And so I was excited to go back to work the next day and tell Patty, like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. And, I've forgiven God. Okay. We can be friends again. Right. I get it. And I just wanted to thank her for that moment. And so when I went into work the next day, Patty wasn't at her desk. And, all the time I worked with her, there was never a day, unless she was scheduled for vacation, that Patty was not at her desk. And so there was no coffee, there was no Patty. And an hour went by, still no Patty. So we started calling, texting, couldn't get a hold of her. We were finally able to get a hold of her husband. And Patty, that evening, right after our conversation, was admitted to the hospital and was on a ventilator.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Or COVID and something else. But
this was, I don't know, 10 years ago. So over the next couple of weeks, we would get phone calls from her husband. She's great. She's good. She's coming off ventilator. Nope, she's back on. She's not good. She's not going to make it. She's responding. She's not. This went on for 3 weeks. Mary, when I tell you, Patty never came back to work. 39 years old. Patty passed away.
Passed away?
She lived 2,028 weeks, right? So my mother, I shared with you, that lived to 47, 2,440 weeks. My friend Joe, dear friend of mine, had a heart attack at 49. He lived about 2,500 weeks. My daughter's friend, we called her Bia. Her brother couldn't say baby. He called her Bia. So her name was always Bia. She was in a car accident at 16. She only lived to be 832 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So that's my passion. That's my why. We spend our time wanting to, we overpromise, want to overdeliver, and we become overwhelmed and we don't know how many weeks we have left.
Right.
So why would we spend those precious weeks doing anything but what we absolutely love with the people we love? So that's why I wrote the book.
I can see why. And I never thought of my lifespan in terms of weeks. And
yes, so
4,000, 4,000, you said 4,044. I'm trying to remember, a lot of fours in there. But I thought, at first I'm like, it's not more than that, but then I think, wait a minute, there's 52 weeks in a year, multiply that out. Yeah. I know in the book too, you say, well, like, not quite that, but they're sleeping, which we need to sleep, by the way, because otherwise our bodies won't function. So now you're talking about awake time.
Yes.
And you start to really, really whittle it down. So, all right. So your experience as a coach, as a woman who's also, does a lot of keynote speaking to women's groups. What are the top 5 things? I'm just going to limit it to 5 that you hear women say they need to say yes to more often. It's kind of the flipping it. They go, okay, we could say I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. But what do you hear women say they want to say yes to more often?
That's a great question. And the truth is, we as women, we don't typically say, I need to say yes. I need to say yes to this. I need to say yes. What we say is, I need to learn to say no, right? I need to learn to say no. I hear that all the time. I've been guilty of saying it myself, right? The truth is, we are the masters of saying no. We say it thousands of times a day and don't even realize it. We say no to our health. We say no to sleep. We say no to being financially successful. We say no to our businesses growing. The truth is, it's not that we need to learn to say no, right? We just need to understand what we're saying no to.
Yeah.
So I talk about this a lot, and this is another one of those pivotal moments in my life. The truth is, every time we say yes to something, we are simultaneously saying no to something else. I was working with a coffee shop, and during their coaching session, we realized that if we just increased our average dollar sale from $3 to $8, we could make about $300,000 more that year. And so when I was talking to the business owner, the way to do that, it was pretty simple, right? We just needed to train the staff rather than taking the coffee order and sending them on their way, to ask them what they wanted for breakfast, right? Croissant, ham and biscuit. That's all we needed to do was train them. Well, this particular business owner was great at running business. He was not great at what he thought was sales, right? And he said, Crystal, you are the sales extraordinaire. And by the way, free tip in Mary's amazing podcast, sales is just giving people what they need. That's it. So big, scary word. And he asked me, he said, you're really great at sales. Could you train my staff? And if you can do that, the one day that I have available is Sunday. That's when the stores close and I can get everybody together. On the inside, I was like, well, no, I can't do that. Right? It's Sunday. It's when we have family and football and the grandbabies come over and my parents are over and we reminisce and that's our day. And immediately I started, just say it, Crystal, just say no, right? And so finally I was able to squeak out, sure. What time Sunday?
Oh my gosh. Right. Why now in that moment, why did you squeak out? Sure. Did you just didn't want to disappoint him or wanted to actually help out? I mean, obviously you saw the need. What was it in you that said yes?
We don't want to let people down. Right. And $300,000, this would change his life. And how could he possibly do it without me? Right. And so
I can see all these rationalizations that would pop up in my head too. Right.
Right. He couldn't possibly do this without me. Who was I kidding? Lie. He was quite capable. Right. I'll tell you, it was the longest 45-minute ride home. I just beat myself up over and over. What are my grandbabies going to think? I started business so I could have a lifestyle with my family and grandchildren and not be tied to a job, right? And what were the grandbabies going to think? And I would have to leave in the middle of the day and take time from them. I just beat myself up and beat myself up and beat myself up. And then when the day came, the grandbabies come. Grandbabies are amazing. They're like your pets. Every time they see you, it's like brand new, right? It's like they, haven't seen you in months and they're so excited and they come running up and they're hugging me and we're having a great day. And the house is filled with like all the football food smells and we're laughing, having a great time. And then, I make the announcement and grandma's got to leave. And I can still see the look on their face. Both their little faces looked up at me and said, leave. Why? And I said, I have to go to work. And they said, why would you do that? Why would you work on a Sunday on our family day? They were like 3 and 6 at the time. So much smarter than me,
right to the heart. I mean, that's the thing.
Right? It's the simple truth.
Yeah, right.
Why would you do that? And I didn't have a good answer for them. And so I went into the training and it was great. And all the things came to fruition. But what I realized on the drive back after the training, when I'm still beating myself up, right? I need to learn to say no. Is that I did say no. When I said yes to training on that Sunday, I said no to my spending time with my father. I said no to spending time with my grandbabies, even if it meant being beat terribly at some silly board game. I said no to making those memories with them, and so I think rather than saying we need to learn to say no, right? We need to understand that every time we say yes, we're saying no to something, right? So I tell people when somebody asks me to do something, if, on my schedule is laundry, I need to say no. If I say yes to you, I say no to laundry. Let's go, girl. Those clothes will be there tomorrow, right? But I have to really understand what it is that I'm saying no to every time I say yes.
Yeah, it's a really conscious awareness because even when we just go through our day, and like I was saying, earlier when I was introducing the topic, we do say yes and no and make these decisions all day, every day. And we do
all day, every day.
A lot, right? And processing. And some of them I realize are kind of rote and that we've done them a lot, so we don't think them. But then again, you go, wait a minute, I only got a little over 4,000 weeks. Wait a minute, let me rethink even my small yeses and nos. It's not really even about how much time it's going to take or how inconvenient or how easy. It's really about, is that the trade I want to make of and what am I saying yes to? In fact, you say that there, and I realize it can come down and be that easy, but then there's this, I almost want to talk this in between before we get to the, I'm very conscious and aware of what I'm saying yes to and what I'm saying no to simultaneously. We get these lies we tell ourselves, these kind of layers of things that we've probably picked up over time about saying no. And you share 3 lies that we tell ourselves in your book. And I would love for you to explain explain what they are, and for all of us to kind of listen and go, do I do that? Do I do that? How do I do that? So what are those 3 lies?
Well, it's interesting that you say, do I do that? I would venture to guess that 99.99999% of us women do this. When I speak, I share it with women that, we've just got to stop lying. And immediately, I see the reaction on their faces like, what? I'm not a liar. I don't lie, And I just point around the room, liar, liar, liar. And then I point back to myself, liar, right? So, yeah, really, there are 3 types of lies. One is the rational lie, right? We lie to ourselves. We rationalize everything. When I was working with that client, I rationalized and I was like, well, I can make it up to them next Sunday. It'll only be a couple hours, right? That wasn't the truth. I couldn't make it up to them, right? And while it was a couple hours, rationalizing it just made me feel better, right? Because I felt so overwhelmed. So I needed to rationalize my why and why I said yes to him and no to my grandchildren and no to making those memories. So yeah, first we rationalize everything with a rational lie.
And that, yeah, I went right there in my mind,
Right.
It's only 2 hours. They're my client. It'll make this amount of money.
Right.
It won't be a big deal. And all that goes right against to the 2 little faces. They go, why are you leaving? Right.
Right.
Processing it through this adult rational. Okay, so that's one. I always find myself having to do a whole lot of rationale on something. That right there is an indicator. Like, gut is saying the other thing. So will I follow my gut, even if I don't completely understand all of why? Like, go with the gut, and the explanation, the more rational explanation, may reveal itself later. So that's one. I can. But then you have some others that are like, you have one called the intentional lie. Ooh.
Look, right. I always say that, part of what I do is share some hard truths. And when I say you, we, I'm talking to myself, Mary. I got to practice this stuff every day, right? But we intentionally lie. We lie to other people. How many times have we been invited to something and really we just don't want to go, right? Yeah. But we lie and say, oh, I would love to, but we already have plans that day. Lie, right? Here's one of my favorites. I'd be happy to work Sunday, but I already told the grandbabies I promised them I would pick them up. That was my lie, Mary. When I was working for another firm, they said, hey, we want to do a planning session on Saturday for about 8 hours. We'll bring lunch in. Can you guys come in? And everybody else was like, sure. I didn't want to let my boss down. Oh my gosh. Right. But then I thought about those grandbabies. This was, after that other experience, but I still can bring myself to just say, if I say yes to you, I'm going to have to say no to my grandbabies and making those memories, right? What I said was, I already promised my grandbabies I would pick them up. Now, the truth was we spent every weekend together, right? But I hadn't promised them I would pick them up. My lie was so intentional that I had to be specific in my lie, right? Rather than just saying, if I say yes to being here on a Saturday, I'm going to have to say no to my grandchildren. You can understand why I have to say yes to my grandchildren. But we will intentionally lie rather than just saying no.
That's true. And we also feel like we have to have some excuse. And
right.
And it's always interesting is, so what's the thing? If you bring up grandbabies, well, it's almost like nobody could argue with you on that. But if you said, I'm sorry, I had a bike ride planned, right? So that doesn't seem as weighty. Well, then you should come in to work and do this. Grandbabies? Okay, I could get away with that. But the reality,
right,
didn't want to give that time to that effort. You'd given it the office already. You didn't want to give a Saturday, even if it had all the reasons that might be good. And everybody else on the team wasn't willing to say no. And so you then become the Lone Ranger if to do that. So I'm just curious, and what happened? Did they have the session without you?
No, we rescheduled it for over the next couple weeks for shorter sessions through the work week. And guess what? It was just as successful. And you make a great point. We don't need excuses. Look, this is your life and this is my life. These are your weeks and my weeks, right? I don't need excuses to live the life that God intended me to live or live the life that I choose to live, right? I always say there are people who drive Teslas and there are people like me who drive Fusions, right? Those are our choices and that's what you value. And you know what? It's your life. It's really okay. You want to drive a Fusion? Great. You want to drive a Tesla? Great. I don't need a reason, right, to choose the car that I choose. And I don't need a reason to choose the life that I choose because it's my life and it's my weeks, right?
Right. Yeah, that I think is like the next level after the rational lie to ourselves, the intentional lie to others. And then you have a third one. Tell us about that.
So I call this the subliminal lie. And I love this. I'm going to share a story with you about our dear friend, Shauna. Okay. So, Shauna has thousands of followers and gets a lot of engagement and is a great connector of women. And on her Facebook page one day, she posted this question. If you had an extra hour every day, what would you do with it? Well, you can probably guess some of the answers.
Yeah.
I would read. I would grow my business. I would work on my marketing. I would spend more time with my family. I would go to the gym. Lies, lies, lies. Because while you say, when I say you, remember I'm talking to myself, while you say you would do all of those things with an extra hour, you have the time right now and you're on social media.
That's right. You could do those right now. Okay.
Right now. Here's your extra hour.
Media time. I mean, you could make an hour. You could find an hour. You could create an hour. Right. Uh-huh.
But it's easier to blame time. It's easier to say we don't have time, right? The truth is your schedule may be full, your calendar may be full, but you who put it there? You put all that stuff on your schedule and then you say you're so busy, right? And the truth is, if you're not doing something, it's not because you don't have time. This is a hard truth. For me, for you that are listening, and for me, it's not because you don't have time. It's just because you don't value it enough to make it a priority. And that's okay. It's your life. I had a friend who used to every day say, they had lots of animals, right? I wish I could spend more time with the horses, more time with my animals. I don't get to spend enough time with my animals if I had more time, right? Well, the truth was this person watched 3 to 5 hours of television every night, right? It's not that they didn't have time. They just valued relaxing and watching television more than they valued and prioritized spending time with their animals. And guess what? That's okay. We just have to stop beating ourselves up about it. It's our life.
Also be honest with ourselves, right?
Yes, and be honest with us. Exactly.
I'm saying this. I really would like that, but I just really don't have the time. And we'll say, no, you're not willing to do what it takes. That's what you need to be honest about. And if you're not willing to do what it takes, that's okay. It's not a judgment, but be honest with yourself, right? And
yes,
Crystal, to get in. We're creatures of habit. We like patterns, we like schedules, we like predictability, and that is something psychologically that grounds us. And it can be also the thing that gets us stuck. And particularly,
absolutely,
about growth or about something new, about some forward change in our lives, because our lives do not stay the same. We're not designed for them to always stay the same. That means we have to break the pattern, break the structure in some areas of our life in terms of schedule in order to allow something else in or to, explore something else. And that's uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable and it's easier to blame, right?
And then I go, oh, it's right. It's something else. And time is, of course, an objective reality at this point. I mean, in other words, it's not evaluating your life and it's just going around the clock. And then, we're the ones who can't blame time to look, at our own lives. So I love these lies because it gets to the real deal. So why? Now, I'm going to ask you in a second because I know you have this in your book and I thought it was brilliant and simple because there always is this question, well, how do we say no? We've kind of figured out we want to say no more. Well, you said we're the masters of no. We want to say yes to the things we want to say yes to more often. How do we do that? Because there is that awkward moment too. I've got to say something to someone, whether it's in person, on the phone, on Zoom, in an email, on social, whatever. But we don't get a lot of training about how to say no. What are the actual words? How can I do it? Before we do that, though, I just brainstormed. I was like, what could no, the letters NO stand for, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, do tell.
I got 1 to 4 options. I want to see what
Okay.
NO, nothing ordinary. NO, not obligated,
Oh,
not an option. Get it? NADDA, not a
right.
never obvious.
I love them all. I love them all. And everything's an option, though, right? Because it's our choice. Everything is our choice. I always, people say, Crystal, I don't have a choice. I have to work. Well, sure you do. You could sell all of your worldly possessions and go live in a box, and you wouldn't have to work, right? You could get assistance and get food from other places, and you could. Now, look, don't send me hate mail. I'm not saying that's how to live your life or the best thing to do, but we have a choice, right? We choose to go to work every day, or we choose the work that we do because of the income and the lifestyle it provides. So let's take out not an option, not obligated, right? I'm not obligated. I like that one a lot. Yeah, I love this. I love the brainstorming about it.
Well, I was thinking to myself, like someone asks me something to do something or an invitation or whatever. And the first thing I'm like, no. I say that to myself. I just thought I like words and it was kind of just playful. So it was just reinforcing the no. But really, I realize it's more about, and what's more powerful is what do I want to say yes to? And when I
Yes.
what I want to say yes to, that means by default, I've said no to a lot of other things and have to continue to say no. And by the way, not everyone in my life, in fact, very few will know exactly what I've said yes to, right? And so it's up to me to inform them, or it's up to me to make that first move and not feel offended, that they've asked me to do something that I just don't want to do, or,
Right.
how would they know? They can't read my mind, which I'm glad about, actually. So I want about the how-tos, because the last 2 years we've had a lot of chip happening, right, on our nails.
We have. Mm-hmm.
Still things are kind of unsettled, chaotic, and so going forward, how can we say no more often and easily so that we're saying yes to what we want and need the most? What's your advice on
It takes a lot of practice and a lot of work, right? And a lot of I tell people we just got to be real with ourselves. Or like you said, we just have to be honest with ourselves. And there's some more examples in the book and other things to work on ourselves to be able to understand what we're saying no to when we say yes. But I want to give you today just a practical, simple tool that you can use when somebody asks of your time or your finances or any of your resources, right? We have to say to ourselves, write this down on a piece of paper and keep it in front of you all the time. Use it as your screensaver on your laptop or on your phone, right? This statement will change what you ultimately say no to, whether it's your health or the event, right? Whether it's working late or eating healthy. This is a statement. If I say yes to blank, I am saying no to blank, right? If I say yes to training that person's team on Sunday, I'm saying no to making memories with my grandchildren. I'm saying no to reminiscing with my father. I am saying no to snuggling on the couch, right, with my grandbabies. If we can be honest with ourselves and put it in that perspective, it gives us the power, right, to share that with other people. Now, you don't even have to share if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to this, right? I do that often. I say, if I say yes to that luncheon, I have to say no to getting my social media stuff over to my social media person and saying no to sharing my coaching message with clients. So you can understand how to say yes to that, right? So one statement, if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to this. The other little tidbit that I'll give you is that if you're honest with yourself and you value it, make it a priority and schedule it. If it doesn't go on my calendar, it doesn't happen. When people reach out and say, hey, Crystal, can I meet with you? I've already got the time blocked on my calendar for meetings, right? And for talking to people. So I send them a link and say, Here's your schedule. But what do we normally do when somebody says, hey, do you want to get together? We go, sure. What works for you?
Right. Versus.
Right. And we give them our time and complete control of our time in our life. So what I do is I block times already on my schedule and I say, I have this time or this time, which one works best for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You think about if we ran our lives like a doctor's office, you don't call the doctor's office and say, hey, I'm ready. I need to schedule my physical. And they go, sure, Mary. When do you want to come in?
Yeah, they always give you options. What were you thinking?
Right.
Can I get in within a month? Oh, sure. Yeah. 3 weeks from now, we have this time and this time. I mean, seriously, right?
Right. But we let other people hijack our time. Right. So I think of, my life as I run it like a medical practice. People want my time. I say, great. I have this time and this time. Which one works best for you? And sometimes, Mary, neither one of those times work best for them. And that's okay. At that point, I need to make a decision. If I say yes to moving something else on my schedule, what am I saying no to, right? And then I get to make a choice because, again, it's my life.
Right. Well,
it's my 4,000 weeks.
That doctor analogy. And I was thinking, well, if I really want to go see that doctor, particularly if I've got some ailment or something that they've got an expertise, I'm moving now my schedule. Make myself available when they are available. So it also has to do with how much I want it.
If you value it and it's a priority,
right,
you will schedule.
Yeah. And by the way, yesterday, literally, I called this new doctor and I want to see if I could get in. And I said, are you accepting new patients? They said, yes. I said, well, how long until, someone's available? Okay. I said, well, put me on the list. By the time you call me, I may not need to see her anymore. She goes,
that's okay. It's
I thought to myself, wow, good for her on that practice. But actually, it was more that she just had more people, that wanted to see her. And I thought to myself, how often she has to live every day with saying no to so many people so that she can fulfill the yeses of the people who are already booked on her schedule to help.
Right. And a little sneak peek behind the medical scenes. Again, please don't send me hate mail if you're in the medical world. Based on my experience, I worked in that field, as an advisor for many years. And what I've found is that in certain practices, not them all, the doctors or the dentists work 1 or 2 days a week. Right. So in our minds, we think they're there 5 days a week. Often they're not, right? Because they value maybe spending time on the water or vacationing or traveling in their family, right? So they have the ability to place value on what's important to them and then make it a priority, right? Which we see as a reflection of their schedule, but we don't know. We just assume, oh my gosh, they're so busy and in such high demand, and they may be. The reality of that is probably that they're really good at prioritizing what's important in their life. And we just see it through the way they schedule, right?
Well,
they're saying
we handle our own lives. And
right,
we're not blocking proactively for the things, then we don't think that the others are either. In other words, it's not our own filter and our own MO. So it really is a reflection on ourselves.
Yeah.
What was that?
Absolutely. Again, you just got to be honest with yourself and then prioritize that whatever that you place that either you need to understand that one, it's not enough value, right? Like if you put on weight and you say, I need to go to the gym, I need to go to the gym. You just don't value it enough. You might value eating donuts more. And guess what? That's okay. That's okay. Just be honest with yourself. I mean, I like a good Dunkin'.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Well, let me ask you this, because I know we got to wrap up. There was in your book that you had this, like the I call it the sticky note statement, right? If I say yes to blank, which is what someone's asking you for, then I have to say no to blank. And you then have another sentence that goes, so therefore you can understand why I need to say no to you. You need that second statement. Is that a good one to have? I mean, when we make that first statement, which is very clear to ourselves and then to the other person, if I say yes to you, I'm going to have to say no to this other thing. And obviously what you're saying is this other thing is more important than you are. And that can be hard to deliver if you're not grandbabies. You're saying,
Right.
So is it necessary or is it helpful in your experience to have that second statement?
I'd say 80% of the time I use the second statement. So if I say yes to training, I'm going to have to say no to, my reading time in the morning. And if I say no to my reading time in the morning, I'm not growing personally and I'm not growing professionally. So you can see why I have to say yes to making that personal and professional development growth time a priority, right? It's not about that I have to say no to you. It's that I'm saying yes to this, right? And the other side of that is we don't really have to explain ourselves to people, right?
That do we have to in some way?
It's this intentional internal conversation, right? Rather than like the one that I had. Oh my gosh, you can't do it without me, and right? And then what are my grandbabies going to think? Right? It's if I say yes to doing this training, I'm going to have to say no to I will be saying no. It's not even I need to or I will be. I'm saying no to my grandbabies, right? And so it's more of that internal conversation. If somebody double asks me like, well, why? Then I'll share the statement with them. And that's about 80% of the time. Not that they ask why, but that I intentionally say, well, if I say yes to this, it means I have to say no to that, right? So, and you can understand why I'm going to say yes to this. And, like you said, it's not in our human nature to think like that, right? So sometimes the majority of them people go, oh, absolutely. And they understand, our hangups are typically our hangups. We worry. What are they going to think? Right?
Right. It's generally not nearly as a big deal 9 times out of 10. Right.
It's not even a big deal.
And I think when it comes to, let's say, a boss or a client or another family member or a loved one that we value so much, or we put them in some high esteem, then it becomes harder to do it. But it actually, you don't necessarily freak out either. I mean, you just, have to lay it out. I love, though, the fact that you've got this statement, and I'm going to somehow highlight this in the Flip the Chip segment, which follows. And it just that one statement, if I say yes to this, then I say no to this. And even if we don't say it out loud, that's a great sentence and statement to say, I need to fill in the blank and get super clear before I respond about what I'm saying yes to, what I'm saying no to. That impacts me. And because that's kind of a skill set. What we were talking about before about the different lies and understanding what can happen, that's like the mindset and the awareness. So then we have to kind of get down what's the practical. I'm going to tell you what with that I do too. This was a couple of years ago. I came to this after reading the book Essentialism, and that was similar about we only got so much time. Put it on the things that are you going to make the biggest impact, that has the biggest fulfillment for you, which means for you figuring that out, okay, and keep figuring that out. So this thing, no, and I just came up with this one-liner. It's my default, which is thanks so much for asking, or wow, that sounds like something really important, or that's going to be helpful, something positive. You kind of affirm them. I mean, they're just asking you.
Right.
Fortunately, I have another commitment. Period. I don't explain the commitment. That commitment from grandbabies, I don't. It could be taking my dog to the vet. It could be it is to me and my sanity to have some time alone.
Right. Yes.
Whenever I bring in whatever the other thing is, it's like saying that's more important than you are. Which, by the way, it is, but why should I throw it in front of your face? And I don't have to give an excuse. I don't have to give a reason. I can just simply say, I have another commitment. Then I hope it goes really well. Have a great time, right? So it's in part my no sandwich. Just
right.
No, and then you end positive, and most well, what is that commitment? I actually have had no one ever ask.
Right, ever.
So, but it is a deliberate filtering, not just to say no to them, it's the saying yes to something for me or in my life. And
absolutely.
So thank you Thank you. Thank you. We are out of time and you know, it's got to say no to continuing to talk a whole lot further.
Okay.
But I always like to ask my guests as we finish up on whatever thing we talk about, if you could create a nail color name, and you pick any color, but if you could create a nail color name and use it to inspire us to say no more often for the right reasons, or perhaps to say yes to the things that we care about the most, what would that name be?
That's an easy question for me, and I haven't ever thought of that. Here it is. Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
That's the name of the nail color. Yes, yes. I said it once. I'll say it twice just to confirm it. Yes, yes.
And why did you say yes, yes versus no, no?
Again, because every time I say yes to something, and again, it's what we focus on, right? What we focus on and what we put our intention on. And what I want to focus on and put my intention on is the things that, like you said, that are fulfilling to me, that are valuable to me in my life, right? So yes, yes, it is.
Love it. I love it. Okay. So for those who would like to learn more about you, connect with you, Crystel, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can connect with me on Facebook. That's one of my favorites. It's Crystel Smith, Crystel. I wasn't there when they named me, but that's how they spelled it. Crystel, and Smith is Smith, of course. Or you can go to my website at crystalclearbusiness.com. Again, Crystal spelled with an E. Yeah, either one of those ways would be great. I'd love to connect with you. I would be so grateful if you would say yes to gifting me with your time.
I love that. And so every gal listening who wants to connect with Crystel, and I think this is true for all of the other guests in the Live Like You Nail Color podcast, tell them that you to the podcast and you're like, you are such a cool gal. I want to connect with you so that they know where you're coming from. Here's what I'm also going to do. I will put all these in the show notes, as well as the link to your book, The Power of No. Great read, quick read, but dang, it'll hit you between the eyes. It'll hit you in the heart, and it'll be like Shazam. I am going to be more like Crystal. I'm going to be more crystal clear. That's really what it is.
Crystal clear, yeah.
In your business and your message out into the world. Crystal, thank you so much for your time today. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Thanks for saying yes, being on the podcast.
I was just going to tell you the same thing. Thank you for gifting me with your time. You know, I always say giving someone your time is like giving them a part of your life you'll never get back. So it's a very precious gift. So thank you for giving me that precious gift of your time, Mary, and saying yes to spending your time with me.
All right. Take care. Okay. So I told you Crystal has some kick-ass, right? There were so many juicy nuggets, but there's one mindset and one skill set takeaway that I really want to highlight in today's Flip the Chip segment. The mindset takeaway is that every time you say yes to something, you are simultaneously saying no to something else. So instead of focusing on saying no and kind of getting uptight, first focus on what's most important to you right now to say yes to. That shift alone from a focus of no to yes changes the whole energy of this conundrum, from a negative energy to a positive one. And that's really powerful. Put you in a different mind space. The skill set takeaway is to clearly determine your fill in the blanks to this statement. If I say yes to blank, that means I'm saying no to blank. This can be a statement you say only to yourself, or it can be overtly shared with another person because perhaps you want them to know. For example, for me, it might sound like this. If I say yes to your gal pal cookout on Saturday night, that means I'm saying no to date night with Bill. You can understand I need to say yes to date night. I mean, I want to keep a good thing going. I do hope we can hang out together another time. And here's another thing you can do. Let your nail color cheer you on. Pick a fave color or a new one and give it the name Yes, Yes, as Crystal suggested, so that when you see your fingers or toes, you're reminded that there is the power of yes. And the yes is to everything that matters most in your one precious life. You can make good choices to create the career, life, and business you want. One step, one nail color at a time. Look forward to being with you next time on the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast. Ready to live and laugh more? Know a friend who could use some of that too? Then subscribe at livelikeyournailcolor.com or your favorite podcast app and share this episode right now with the person who popped into your mind. Together, let's flip the chip to be stronger, smarter, and happier.